Good morning. It's time to get back on Granny Shares the Bible, and I'm going to start on chapter 19, verse 1. And there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. Now, the last thing we heard, he was pitching his tent toward Sodom, but now he's sitting in the gate. So, it's the way it is. It draws you. The sinful world, the world of glitter and commerce and everything that's going on draws you. You have to be careful when you start partaking of it. You know, on YouTube and Facebook, especially YouTube, you can look at so many different kinds of things, and it's shocking to you all the things that you can see, and they're not bad things, they're just things of the world. You know, how to cook this, how to cook that. Facebook too. New recipes, new ways to clean the house. I mean, you're not looking at bad stuff, but you're just being drawn to the whole scenario of the world and its ways. So just be careful about all of that, because Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom when the two angels came. Now, the two angels, yes, they were those two that were with the Lord. So it looks like the Lord just went his way, meaning that's what it said above there, and the Lord went his way. Went back up to heaven, wherever he wanted to go. The Lord can go wherever he wants to go, can he? And the Bible talks about angels coming to us. Let's look at in the Hebrews, because there are times that you might not realize you are entertaining angels unaware. It says, be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. That's chapter 13, verse 2 of Hebrews. So here's Lot, and he's at the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. So Lot knew that these were godly people. If they were, he didn't know they were angels, perhaps he didn't know, but he knew they were godly people. And God's people are recognized in this world. They are. And they are sometimes protected even by people who are not God's people, because they don't want anybody to mess with God's people. Well, Lot knew that those angels should not stay in the streets all night. He knew that. He didn't know they were angels, but he knew those men should not stay in the streets all night. So he had understood about Sodom after he got in there. I would say after he got in there. So he had his house there. His house was in Sodom. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. Old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they were the men of the city. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. Now, that sounds innocent. They want to meet them, right? No, it wasn't innocent, and Lot knew it wasn't. And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. I pray you, brethren. He called them brothers. Do not so wickedly. All the men of the city, the young and the old, were gathered up at his door, wanting to know those men, those angels. Behold now, here's what Lot said, I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. So Lot knew what know them meant. These were men who were homosexuals. They were not only homosexuals, they were on the prowl homosexuals. And they wanted these 2 men, these angels. And Lot offered them his daughters instead. They have not even known man. They're virgins. Let me bring them out to you, and do you to them as is good in your eyes. Only these men do unto these men do nothing. Wow. That's pretty strong things, isn't it, right there? Pretty strong wickedness. And they said, stand back. They're going to break into the house and get them. And they said again, this one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now, will we deal worse with thee than with them? And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. So, they didn't want those daughters. They wanted men. And they wanted, if they couldn't have the angels, they wanted Lot. And you get something a little bit from this thing they said. This fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. In other words, if you're going to hang around us, don't be trying to judge us. If you're coming in here to live with us, don't be starting to try to be our judge. In other words, we're all right. We're doing what we want to do, and that's just fine. And we don't need you to tell us anything about it. Ooh. As it was in the days of Sodom, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. We're in those days. You cannot speak against someone being a homosexual. You cannot. You cannot say that God hates it. This is what God came to see, what was going on in Sodom. This is what was going on in Sodom. It was called rape, but it was homosexual rape. We know. We know that that happens. I hear about it happening in prisons where whoever it is has no defense because they're in cells with men. So Lot was almost a victim. I don't know why he had lived there and escaped that, except the Lord watching over him, but he had. It says, but the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them and shut to the door. The men who were the angels, they would not let Lot be attacked by all these men. They're trying to break the door down. They're going to get Lot, and they wanted to get those 2 men too. Is that wicked? Yes. You know, a lot of sexual things can turn into wickedness. Not just homosexuality, but even men and women can turn into wickedness. We know that men steal little girls to caused them to be sex slaves. And all kinds of wickedness happens about sex. But sex was really given for men and women to be drawn to each other and to be able to keep the human race going on. It wasn't wicked. And it works where marriage is concerned. Where marriage between a man and a woman is concerned, it works good. It keeps them faithful to each other. It gives them continuous love. It's a wonderful thing. But when it's pulled out of that context and turned into something different, it can turn into great wickedness. And this great wickedness was when the men started lusting about over the men. You know, we can look at that in Romans chapter 1. It says, because it says, it's talking about God, therein is the righteousness of God revealed from faith to faith, that is written. So we know that God's revealed his righteousness through Christ. But it says here, because that when they knew God, they glorified him not as God. This is chapter 1 of Romans, verse 21. Neither were thankful, but became vain in their imaginations, and their foolish heart was darkened. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and changed the glory of the uncorruptible God into an image made like to corruptible man, and to birds and four-footed beasts and creeping things. So that's making the idols. Worshiping God is a wonderful thing, but worshiping idols is not. Wherefore God also gave them up to uncleanness through the lust of their own hearts, to dishonor their own bodies between themselves, who changed the truth of God into a lie, and worshipped and served the creature more than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this cause God gave them up unto vile affections. For even their women did change the natural use into that which is against nature. And likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burned in their lust one toward another, men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error which was meet. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient, being filled with all unrighteousness, fornication, wickedness, covetousness. And it goes on to list all the bad things that men do when they are given over to a reprobate mind. And so these men in Sodom, they don't want to do anything different than what they were doing, and what they were doing was wicked. And so the angels pulled Lot into the house to them and shut to the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. All of them suddenly were smitten with blindness. This is chapter 19, verse 12. And the men said unto Lot, Hast thou here any besides, son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city? Bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxen great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. Did they find 10? This was all the men of the city came out, trying to get those angels, and then getting Lot if they could. It was like they were in a frenzy. And so God knew there weren't 10 righteous there. He knew. And he had already made the angels know that it was going to be destroyed. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. but he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. He was part of that city now. And even though he was different, they knew he was different. He had come to sojourn. That's what they said. In other words, they didn't think of him as a citizen of the country, of the city. He had sons-in-laws, probably sons-in-law, who were men of that city and married to his daughters. And when he tried to get them to come out of the city, he said, "For the Lord will destroy this city," but he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. They couldn't listen to him. They couldn't listen to him. They were so used to it. They didn't know that God's judgment was coming upon them. That's the way it is. We've got sons and daughters that we try to warn them, Jesus is coming, be ready. But instead of taking our word for it, they take the word of the world because they're immersed in it. Come ye out and be ye separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing. And I will be a father unto you, and you shall be my sons and daughters. Come ye out from among them. See, that's why we try to keep our children loose from the world and its ways. Because the world is something that'll get a hold of you, and then somebody trying to warn you about what's going to happen seems as someone who mocks. Someone that's just making fun. It's not really serious. So I'm going to stop right there, and we're going to start again tomorrow about what happened. God bless you.